The calm before the storm. Once, he was a prince celebrated for his charm, his military service, and his position as a beloved son of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Today, Prince Andrew's world is reduced to silence, the grand corridors of power replaced by the quiet, suffocating walls of his Windsor home, Royal Lodge. It is here, behind heavy curtains and guarded gates, that the disgraced Duke spends his days in near solitude, cut off from the glittering public life he once embraced so eagerly. Those who once bowed before him in deference now avoid his name in conversation, and his presence at family gatherings has shifted from privilege to burden. The man who once walked proudly beside his mother during royal ceremonies now enters through side doors, hidden from the cameras, unwanted by the crowds. His uniform has been stripped of meaning. His titles are gone, his future uncertain. Inside the royal household, the atmosphere is tense, as though an unspoken fear lurks behind every carefully measured word. Courtiers whisper, advisors strategize, and senior royals privately debate how much longer the institution can withstand the shadow Andrew casts upon it. His mere existence, once a symbol of royal strength, had become a reminder of scandal, an open wound the monarchy cannot heal. For Andrew himself, the isolation is more than physical. It is emotional, psychological, and deeply humiliating. Once a man of privilege who believed himself untouchable, he now lives under the weight of public scorn. His face, once splashed across newspapers for charity galas and diplomatic missions, is today associated with disgrace. He is no longer a working royal, no longer a respected public servant, but a man stripped of honor and dignity. And yet, as quiet as his life may now appear, the storm is far from over. A new threat is on the horizon, one that terrifies not only Andrew, but the very monarchy itself. Virginia Giuffre's memoir, set for release, promises to reopen the wounds he has tried so desperately to close. Every word, every page, could carry revelations that shatter whatever fragile peace he has managed to hold on to. This is the calm before the storm, a calm heavy with dread, with unanswered questions, with sleepless nights inside the walls of Royal Lodge. For Andrew, the once proud prince who believed he stood above scandal, the greatest battle of his life is about to begin. Not on the battlefield, not in the courts, but in the unforgiving eyes of the public, who wait with sharpened judgment for truth to unfold. The ghost of Epstein. In the darkest corners of power and privilege lived a man whose very name became synonymous with exploitation, corruption, and secrecy, Jeffrey Epstein. His world was not one of fairy tales or royal traditions, but private islands, private jets, and private deals. To the public, Epstein presented himself as a financier, a man of wealth and mystery. But behind the gilded mask lay a predator, building a network of manipulation and abuse that would one day unravel with devastating consequences. It was within this shadowy world that Prince Andrew became entangled. Photographs, parties, and whispered conversations bind the Duke of York to Epstein's orbit. Once dismissed as casual encounters between friends, those connections grew more sinister as Epstein's crimes came to light. The image of Andrew strolling through Central Park with Epstein, long after Epstein's first conviction, will become one of the most damning visuals of the prince's lifetime. That single photograph spoke louder than any denial, raising questions Andrew has never been able to escape. Years later, the ghost of Epstein continues to haunt him. It lingers in every headline, every awkward silence at royal gatherings, every avoidance of the subject by palace officials. No matter how many statements Andrew issues, no matter how many times he insists he did nothing wrong, the world cannot unsee the company he once kept. His friendship with Epstein was not a passing acquaintance. It was a stain, one that time has refused to wash away. Today, the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein looms over Andrew like a specter, a reminder that the past is not so easily buried. For the Duke of York, every attempt at redemption is crushed beneath the weight of that association. Epstein may be gone, but his shadow remains, a shadow that has swallowed Andrew's reputation, his career, and perhaps his future. The girl who would not be silenced. While Andrew hides in the quiet corners of Windsor, there is another figure who refuses to fade into the background. Virginia Giuffre. For decades, her voice was nearly drowned out by the power of men like Epstein and protection they received from the elite. Yet Virginia chose not silence, but courage. She stepped forward, not only to reclaim her own story, but to speak for countless others who have been silenced by fear, wealth, and power. Virginia's life was not one of privilege. She endured hardships from a young age, trials that left her vulnerable to exploitation. Epstein's network sought out girls like her, young, impressionable, desperate for opportunity. But unlike so many who were broken and discarded by the system, Virginia fought back. She transformed her pain into strength, her suffering into testimony, her scars into a weapon of truth. Her accusations against Prince Andrew were nothing short of explosive. In her voice, the world heard a story that pierced through the walls of palaces and courtrooms alike. She described a night, an encounter, a memory that Andrew has always denied. But her insistence, her consistency, and her resolve gave the story power. When Andrew spoke, the world mocked him. When Virginia spoke, the world listened. And now, with her memoir on the horizon, Virginia holds the power once again. Every page promises to be more than just words. It is a declaration that she cannot and will not be silenced. Her fight is not only for herself, but for justice, for truth, and for all survivors who were told their voices didn't matter. In the battle between silence and courage, Virginia stands tall, her truth echoing louder than the excuses of princes. For Andrew, she represents more than just an accuser. She is the embodiment of accountability. For the world, she is proof that even the most powerful can be confronted by those they once thought powerless. The scandal that rocked the crown. It was meant to be his chance to clear his name, to silence the whispers that haunted him. Instead, it became the single most catastrophic interview in royal history. On a cold November evening in 2019, Prince Andrew sat across from Emily Maitlis on BBC's Newsnight. His face was calm, his tone measured, but what followed would destroy the last threads of credibility he still clung to. When pressed about Virginia Giuffre's allegations, Andrew offered an excuse so bizarre it turned him into a global punchline. I have a medical condition, which means I don't sweat. The world laughed. Memes spread like wildfire. His denial, far from convincing, came across as arrogant, detached, and absurd. What was meant to be a defense became a confession of his own detachment from reality. By the time the interview aired, Andrew was no longer just a disgraced royal. He was a symbol of privilege gone horribly wrong. Within days, his royal career collapsed. He stepped back from public duties, not with dignity, but with shame. For the monarchy, it was not just a scandal, it was a disaster. For Andrew, it was the moment his crown turned to ashes, the settlement that raised more questions. As public anger mounted, Andrew's legal battle with Virginia Giuffre grew darker. In early 2022, just before the case was set to proceed in court, the world was stunned. Andrew quietly reached a multi-million-pound settlement. The exact figure was never confirmed, though reports suggest it reached upwards of £12 million. Money said to have come, at least in part, from the Queen herself. But if Andrew was innocent, why pay? That question has haunted him ever since. His legal team insisted it was not an admission of guilt, merely a way to spare the monarchy from a drawn-out trial. Yet the settlement only fueled suspicions. For many, it looked like hush money, an attempt to bury the truth rather than face it. The secretive nature of the deal, the silence from both sides, and the refusal to disclose details created more mystery than resolution. Far from clearing Andrew's name, the settlement became another nail in the coffin of his reputation. His innocence remained unproven, his guilt unacknowledged, and his place in history stained forever. The memoir bombshell. Just when Andrew thought the storm had passed, news broke that Virginia Giuffre was writing a memoir, set for release in October. The book threatens to reopen every wound the Duke has tried to close. Unlike legal documents or courtroom testimonies, a memoir is personal, emotional, and unrestricted by legal strategy. For the royal family, it is a nightmare. What secrets will Virginia reveal? What details, what memories, what encounters could be laid bare for the world to dissect? Experts warn the book could be devastating, not just for Andrew, but for the monarchy as a whole. Every headline about the memoir is a dagger. Every rumor of what it might contain sends shivers through Buckingham Palace. For Andrew, it is not just a book, it is a ticking time bomb. The palace in panic. Behind palace walls, panic brews. Courtiers scramble. Advisors whisper, and damage control strategies are drawn in desperation. How can a monarchy survive another wave of scandal? One written in the voice of the woman who brought Andrew down. For King Charles, the situation is delicate. He must protect the crown, but at the cost of turning his back on his own brother. For William, the future king, the rage is palpable. He sees Andrew not as family, but as a threat to the very institution he is preparing to inherit. And in the shadows of memory, the late queen's silent pain lingers. She stood by her son longer than anyone expected, providing him protection when the world turned away. But even she, in her final years, was forced to accept that Andrew could never return to public life. For the monarchy, the scandal is more than embarrassment. It is a wound that refuses to heal. Brothers divided. Blood may bind them, but scandal divides them. King Charles keeps Andrew at arm's length, wary of the damage he can still cause. William, sharper and less forgiving, reportedly views his uncle as a liability, someone whose mere presence taints the future of the monarchy. And then there are Harry and Meghan watching from afar. Their own war with the monarchy has made them outcasts, but Andrew's downfall provides an ironic contrast. While Harry and Meghan were criticized for speaking out, Andrew was cast out for remaining silent. The fracture between brothers, cousins, and generations widens under the weight of scandal. In the family portrait of the House of Windsor, Andrew is no longer just a disgraced figure. He is the unwanted relative whose shadow darkens every reunion. A prince in exile. At Royal Lodge, Andrew lives like a ghost of his former self. Once the dashing naval officer, now a recluse. His days are spent behind closed doors, his public appearances rare and carefully managed. When he does emerge, at funeral coronations or church services, he is met with silence, stares, or outright boos. Inside Windsor, loneliness has become his closest companion. His daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, remain loyal, but even they cannot shield him from the truth. He is no longer a working royal, no longer a figure of respect. He is a man in exile, living within the palace grounds, but banished from the palace stage. The cameras that once adored him now capture only his downfall. He walks in public like a ghost, present but unwelcome, alive but erased. The memoir's most dangerous pages. The greatest fear is not what is known, but what remains hidden. Virginia's memoir is more than a retelling. It could contain names, details, encounters never before revealed. Pages that may ignite new investigations, new accusations, new shame. Inside Buckingham Palace, the fear is real. What if she reveals more photographs, more meetings, more powerful names entangled in Epstein's web? The monarchy has weathered scandals before, but none quite like this. Scandals that cross borders, politics, and justice systems. For Andrew, the danger is unbearable. Each unreleased chapter of her book hangs over him like a guillotine, its blade waiting to fall. The memoir could strip away the last fragments of doubt, leaving him fully exposed before the court of public opinion. Deep dive arcs. Media frenzy. The tabloids circle Andrew like vultures, publishing every rumor, every photograph, every whispered account. For the press, scandal sells, and Andrew is a gold mine. Emotional decline. Experts speak of his paranoia, his sleepless nights, his crumbling mental state. The proud prince reduced to a man haunted by his past. The legacy of Diana and shadows of scandal. Comparisons to Diana's struggles emerge. While she fought the press with dignity, Andrew is consumed by it. Public outrage. On the streets, in newspapers, on social media, the people's verdict is clear. Andrew is beyond forgiveness. The hidden files, court documents, leaked names, secret depositions, all reminders that the truth may still surface. The crisis managers, PR experts hired to control the narrative, spin the headlines, and protect the monarchy's image, often failing against the tidal wave of scandal. The survivor's power. Virginia's courage inspires others, turning her into a symbol of defiance against the elite. The unforgiven prince. Analysts warn Andrew will never return to royal duties. His disgrace is permanent, his exile irreversible. The monarchy at risk. Experts question whether repeated scandals could threaten the very survival of the institution. Countdown to October. As the memoir's release nears, the world holds its breath. For Andrew, each day is a countdown to judgment. Final chapter, Judgment Day. The memoir is released. Bookstores, headlines, and social media explode with excerpts and revelations. The world reads Virginia's story, her pain, her courage, her accusations. For Andrew, silence is his only response. He issues no interviews, no statements, no denials. The contrast is clear. Her voice, his silence. The reaction is fierce. Some feel vindicated, others enraged, but all agree the monarchy has been shaken once again. Andrew's fall is complete. There is no redemption, no return, no crown that can protect him now. And as the dust settles, one chilling question lingers in the air. Is this the beginning of the end for the monarchy as we know it? Epilogue, The Fall of a Prince. The story of Prince Andrew is not just a story of one man. It is a story of power abused, of privilege corrupted, of silence shattered by the voice of truth. He began as a hero, a prince admired, a son beloved. He ends as a cautionary tale, a man stripped of honor, reduced to a symbol of disgrace. History is merciless. It will not remember his excuses, his denials, or his defenses. It will remember the survivors, the voices that rose against power, and the courage of those who refused to be silenced. History will remember the victims, not the princes who fell from grace.